Welcome to EKU Then and Now. I'm your host, Paul Blanchard, and I recently retired after a 35-year career as a faculty member and administrator at Eastern. This monthly series will focus on prominent EKU faculty, staff, and alumni who have had a meaningful involvement at Eastern during its history of more than 100 years. They will comment on what EKU has been like during its storied past, how it has changed, and what we might expect its future to hold. Our guest this month is EKU Hall of Fame football coach Roy Kidd, and I have a long introduction for Roy, but joining me to interview Coach Kidd is EKU President Dr. Doug Whitlock. Let me formally introduce our distinguished guest, even though many of you already know a lot about him. Coach Roy Kidd graduated from Corbin High School, where he was a star football, basketball, and baseball player. After being chosen as a first-team All-State football player by the Louisville Courier-Journal, Roy was signed to a football scholarship by Eastern Kentucky State College and played quarterback at EKU from 1950 to 1953. He established a dozen records as quarterback of the Maroons, was an All-Ohio Valley Conference selection, and was honored as a Little All-American choice in 1953. Kidd was also a star center fielder for Eastern. He served as a very successful head coach at the Madison Model High School in Richmond from 1956 until 1961, winning more than 80% of his games. Coach Kidd was chosen Kentucky High School Coach of the Year in his last season, 1961, as his Purples went 13-1. For 2 years, Roy was an assistant coach at Moorhead and EKU and was hired as Eastern's head football coach in 1964. We've got a long ways to go here. He led the Colonels to 16 Ohio Valley Conference titles during his tenure. After EKU became part of the new division, 1AA, in 1978, EKU and Kidd made 4 appearances in 4 straight national championship games, winning in 1979 and 1982, and finishing as runner-ups in 1980 and 81. Following the national championships, Kidd's teams never suffered a losing campaign. All told, Kidd led the Colonels to a national record 17 NCAA Division I-A playoff appearances. He won the OVC Coach of the Year honor 10 times and was twice honored as NCAA Division I-AA National Coach of the Year. Over the course of his career, Coach Kidd won more than 70% of the games played by EKU. He was inducted into the College Football Hall of Fame in 2003. At retirement, Coach Kidd was the 6th all-time winningest coach in NCAA history with 315 victories. He recorded 37 non-losing seasons, including a streak of 25 straight seasons with a winning record. Kidd coached 55 All-Americans, 202 first-team All-OVC selections, and 41 student athletes who signed National Football League contracts. A few years ago, the Colonel Stadium was named Roy Kidd Stadium in his honor. Coach Kidd, it is indeed a privilege to have you on EKU Then and Now.
Well, thank you, Paul. You brought back a lot of memories there listening to the introduction, but I really appreciate all that.
Well, I thought maybe there were some things there you hadn't heard before. But, I'm real interested in the early years when you first came to Eastern in 1950 and what caused you to come here. I read somewhere you had the opportunity to go to UK and play for Bear Bryant, but why did you decide to choose EKU?
Well, I really, Paul, wanted to go to Georgia Tech because at that time, Georgia Tech had a reputation of small halfbacks or running backs, and that's when I played in high school. And then Kentucky, it was tough to turn Coach Bryant down, you know, when he came into my home, but he told me that I could not play baseball. And the reason I didn't go to Georgia Tech, I never had the math background to go there. And they wanted me to go to a prep school in Chattanooga, and I didn't want to do that. So then Coach Bryant, when he offered me a scholarship, he told me, he said, you can't play baseball. And baseball, be very honest, was my favorite sport as a player. And I wanted to play baseball. And Turkey Hughes really had a great name for baseball, being a baseball coach. And at that time, Eastern had it set up to where spring practice finished the last day of March, and you could play baseball in April, May, and we went to school a couple of weeks in June. Mm-hmm. So that was a big decision right there. And the surprising thing was, Eastern, when football practice started, they put me at quarterback, and I never played quarterback. And I did throw the passes for Corbin High School, but from a halfback position.
In Corbin, did you play the old single wing, or?
No, we played the T formation, and the fullback took his legs and put them a certain way, and the ball was snapped over here to the right halfback, which was me. I would step over where the fullback was, and he would block to my right, and I would throw the passes from there. And I guess back then we didn't film and video and stuff like that, so I would assume that Eastern thought that I played quarterback because I did throw a lot of passes and a few of them for touchdowns. So I guess that's why they put me there. And you know, I came to the old school. Coach tells you to do something, you do it, and that's where they lined me up. And I think part of it was because they ran the split T here, so the quarterback at that time ran the ball as well as throwing the ball.
What was your impression of EKU in 1950? You were from a relatively small town, but I guess Richmond was a small town too. Did you have a lot of adjustment to make?
Well, not really. I can remember very plainly my brother Earl dropping me off at Sullivan Hall, and I walked in with one suitcase. You know, probably had a pair of tennis shoes, Levi's, and a couple of T-shirts and stuff like that. I can't get over the way the students today, you know, come in with computers and TVs and huge wardrobe. But anyway, it's Eastern at that time was extremely friendly. It was just like a big high school, I guess now. I think it was 1,500 students at that time. The faculty was really good to you. I mean, they took time to welcome you and take care of you here. I think they really care about the students at that time, but I met a lot of good friends, good people, not only just the football players, but a lot of students that I still keep in contact with.
Was it difficult to balance the athletic expectations with your academic work? Did you find time to study? Or
not really. The pressure that at that time is not like it is now. I mean, we didn't, you know, even when I coached and the way they coach now, you had a lot of meetings, you know, meeting before practice, and sometimes you bring it back at night for a meeting. We didn't do that. We went out, we practiced from 3:30 to 5:30, and when practice is over with, you're on your own. So, I mean, you go to the library and study and do your work or what you had to do. You didn't worry about football again until the next day. And then on the weekend, you didn't, once the game was over with, you were free till practice started on Monday. So it was quite different, you know. We didn't film the game so much and sit down and really go over it with the players like they do today.
Do you have any professors that you remember from those days?
Oh, yeah, you know, well, right off the bat, one of the amazing things to me was our head football coach, Tom Samuels. He taught a health class, and I couldn't get over how smart he was and how he could get up there and teach health like he did. And of course, Glenn Presonnell, you know, was an excellent football coach himself, and he taught the football class. Turkey Hughes, I had him as a teacher. I could go on. I had Fred Engel, Jr. I had his daddy in a math class, and then I had Fred Jr., I guess it is. I had him in a graduate class in economics, and I remember Dr. Witt. I had him in biology. I had I believe it Mrs. McKinney, or later I think it's Mrs. Richards, I believe, in geography, and a Dr. Kinnemer in geography. But and I'm sure I'm missing on a lot of them, you know.
Yeah,
Miss Hood,
yeah.
You know, you can't leave her out, you know, in the PE class. So the faculty was really great to the students at that time.